That's not like taffy. Those things do hurt.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
The nice thing is they don't come loose, like the porcupines that we have in Michigan.
Right.
Viewers were left speechless just moments ago after a shocking announcement from beloved veterinarian Dr. Jan Pol, star of The Incredible Dr. Pol. Known for his tireless work and no-nonsense charm, Dr. Pol has become a household name over the past decade. But now, heartbreaking news has surfaced. The man who has healed thousands of animals and inspired millions is facing a diagnosis that has left both his family and fans shaken. What exactly happened to Dr. Pol? And why did he decide to finally speak out? Stay with us as we uncover the full truth behind Dr. Pol's emotional farewell and what it means for the future of his clinic and his legacy. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the updates surrounding this deeply personal story. For years, Dr. Jan Pol has been the heart and soul of rural veterinary care. Born in the Netherlands in 1942, he moved to Michigan with his wife, Diane, and built a modest clinic that would one day become world famous. The Incredible Dr. Pol, which premiered in 2011 on Nat Geo Wild, showcased his daily work, delivering calves, saving sick dogs, and offering blunt yet compassionate advice to farmers. Fans admired not only his skill, but his incredible stamina. Even in his 70s and 80s, Dr. Pol never slowed down. He was always seen climbing fences, performing emergency surgeries, and traveling long distances to help animals in distress. But in recent months, something changed. Viewers began noticing moments where Dr. Pol appeared visibly fatigued. There were fewer field visits, and he seemed to rely more on his younger associates, like Dr. Lisa and Dr. Fuarn Nicole. Rumors began spreading online that he was quietly battling health issues, but neither the network nor the family made any public statement. That silence was finally broken just 1 minute ago, when Dr. Pol made an emotional announcement that confirmed fans' worst fears. In a heartfelt video message shared on his official social media pages, Dr. Pol sat in his office, surrounded by photos of his wife, his team, and countless animals whose lives he'd saved. His voice trembled slightly as he began to speak. "I've always said that life is precious, no matter how small or big the creature," he said, pausing to collect his thoughts. "But sometimes, even the doctor needs a little healing of his own." Those words sent shockwaves through the fandom. For decades, viewers had seen Dr. Pol as unstoppable, the kind of man who could work in a snowstorm, drive across frozen farmland at dawn, and perform surgery with hands steadier than most young doctors. But this time, the strength in his eyes revealed something different. He went on to share that after several unexplained bouts of dizziness and fatigue, he decided to see his physician for a full evaluation. What followed was a series of tests that revealed a diagnosis he described as both humbling and frightening. While he didn't initially reveal the specific condition, close family friends later confirmed that Dr. Pol had been quietly battling a degenerative illness, affecting his mobility and energy levels. The reality hit fans hard. For years, they'd watched him defy age, proving that passion could outlast time. Yet now, at 83 years old, even the indestructible Dr. Pol was facing his own limits. As he spoke, his tone shifted from sorrow to gratitude. "I've been blessed to do what I love for over 50 years, he continued. "I've seen life begin, and I've seen it end, and every single day has been a gift." Behind him, Diane could be seen gently nodding, her eyes filled with quiet pride. It was clear this decision wasn't made lightly. Dr. Pol had wrestled with it for months. Fans flooded the comments section with messages of love and support, with many calling him a hero who changed the world's view of veterinarians forever. But the hardest part of his message was yet to come. After a deep pause, Dr. Pol revealed the part that no one was prepared for. He would be stepping away from the show that had defined his life for over a decade. "It's time for me to slow down," he admitted. "I've pushed my body hard for many years, and it's finally telling me to take a break." His words were heavy, but honest, spoken with the same straightforward wisdom that made fans love him. He explained that his diagnosis had made him reevaluate what truly mattered: his health, his family, and the animals he could still help on his own terms. "The show has been a blessing," he said, "but I don't want people to see me as sick. I want them to remember me as the doctor who gave everything he had for the animals." Diane reached over and placed her hand on his. It was a silent, emotional confirmation of what they'd likely discussed countless times at home: the possibility that this day would eventually come. Behind the camera, members of his team, including longtime assistant Charles, were reportedly in tears. For Charles, this wasn't just a father stepping down. It was the end of an era. He had built the show around his dad's unfiltered humor, passion, and grit. The idea of continuing without him felt almost impossible. Fans across the world took to social media within minutes of the announcement. Hashtags like "Thank you, Dr. Pol" and "Pol Strong" began trending, with people sharing stories of how Dr. Pol had inspired them to become veterinarians, farmers, or animal rescuers. One fan wrote, "He taught me that caring for animals isn't just a job, it's a calling." As the video continued, Dr. Pol's tone softened again. "I'm not disappearing," he said. "I'll still be here, at the clinic when I can, sharing what I know, but it's time to let others carry the torch." With those final words, it became clear. This wasn't just a retirement. It was a farewell filled with love, dignity, and gratitude. In the hours following the announcement, emotions ran high not only among fans but also within Dr. Pol's close-knit team. Many had worked alongside him for years, witnessing firsthand his relentless dedication and tough-as-nails approach to animal care. Dr. Brenda, who had been by his side since the early days of the clinic, shared her heartbreak in a brief statement. "There will never be another Dr. Pol," she said. "He's not just our leader, he's our family." The entire staff gathered at the clinic that same evening for what would turn into a quiet yet emotional meeting. They reminisced about their early years, about the time Dr. Pol drove through a blizzard to save a cow in labor, and the countless nights he stayed up past midnight to check on recovering patients. Even when exhausted, he always made time to crack a joke, offer encouragement, or remind his team that every life matters, no matter how small. But behind the smiles that night, there was an unspoken fear. What would happen to the show and the clinic without its guiding force? Charles Pol reportedly addressed this during the gathering, assuring everyone that his father's legacy would continue. "Dad built something that's bigger than all of us," he said. "He's the reason people believe in country vets again." Though Dr. Pol himself tried to lighten the mood by joking, "I'm not dead yet, folks," even he couldn't fully mask the emotion in his eyes. Diane later told a local reporter that this was the hardest decision her husband had ever made. "He's never known a day without work. The animals are his heartbeat," she said softly. That night, fans from around the world sent thousands of messages, photos, and videos thanking Dr. Pol for his decades of compassion. Some even traveled to Michigan, hoping to catch a glimpse of the man who had inspired them. The local community organized a candlelight vigil outside the clinic, with farmers, pet owners, and animal lovers all gathering to show their gratitude. A small child held up a handmade sign that read, "Thank you, Dr. Pol, for saving my puppy." Nearby, an elderly farmer spoke about how Dr. Pol once helped deliver a calf on Christmas Eve, when no other vet would answer the phone. Each story painted the same picture: a man who gave without expecting anything in return. The next morning, Dr. Pol reportedly arrived at the clinic as usual, refusing to rest. "Animals don't take days off," he joked to the staff. Though his steps were slower, his breath more deliberate. Still, he worked, just as he always had. He examined a sick goat, comforted a crying pet owner, and reminded everyone that kindness is the best medicine. As night fell, the clinic lights stayed on longer than usual, as if refusing to let go of the day. The man who had become a legend wasn't ready to stop healing. Not yet. In the days that followed, news outlets across the country began covering Dr. Pol's announcement. Headlines called him America's favorite veterinarian and the man who never gave up. Yet beneath the praise, there was a quiet sadness that spread among fans who had grown up watching his show. Social media timelines were filled with old clips. Dr. Pole pulling a calf in a storm, setting a horse's leg, or laughing after a hard day's work. People weren't just revisiting the show. They were reliving the moments that made them feel connected to him. For many, Dr. Pole wasn't just a TV figure. He was family. Meanwhile, those close to the Pole family revealed that his diagnosis had been slowly progressing for months. It had started subtly: occasional dizziness, tremors in his hands, and long spells of fatigue that forced him to take breaks between appointments. At first, he brushed it off, insisting he was just tired from long workdays. But after Diane noticed him struggling to hold his surgical instruments during a routine procedure, she urged him to see a specialist. Tests confirmed what he feared most: a degenerative condition that would eventually limit his mobility and dexterity. For a man whose hands had been his greatest tools, it was a devastating revelation. Still, in typical Dr. Pole fashion, he chose to face it head-on. "You can't stop living just because you're sick," he told a friend. "You adapt, you move on, and you help where you can." That simple statement became a rallying cry for fans who saw his resilience as proof that strength comes not from avoiding pain, but from enduring it with grace. At home, Diane and Charles began adjusting their lives around his health. They hired additional staff at the clinic, ensuring Dr. Pole could step back when needed, without disrupting the care animals received. Despite the circumstances, Dr. Pole continued showing up at the clinic almost every day, often arriving before sunrise. His morning routine remained the same: coffee in hand, a quick check on the patients, and a friendly word to every employee. Even as his body slowed, his spirit never did. One of the younger vets recalled a morning when Dr. Pole insisted on helping with a cow delivery despite his doctor's orders to avoid strenuous activity. He just smiled and said, "I'll watch from the side." The vet remembered. Next thing we knew, he was elbow deep helping us finish the job. That was the man everyone knew: unyielding, compassionate, and driven by purpose. Fans sent countless letters, many handwritten, expressing how his perseverance through illness inspired them to face their own struggles. Through it all, Dr. Pole kept his sense of humor, often joking that retirement just means less running and more talking. Yet behind that smile, those closest to him could see the toll the disease was taking. His movements were slower, his voice slightly strained, but his determination remained untouched. The world watched as Dr. Pole's story turned from one of endless work to one of courage, grace, and the bittersweet beauty of letting go. The announcement marked a turning point, not just for Dr. Pole, but for everyone who had ever been touched by his compassion. As the days turned into weeks, the clinic took on a quieter rhythm. Viewers who visited Wademan, Michigan, often described seeing Dr. Pole sitting by the clinic window, greeting visitors with his familiar smile, sometimes offering advice even when he wasn't scheduled to work. "Old habits die hard," he'd say, laughing. Yet there was an undeniable change. He was slowing down, something he had resisted for most of his life. Those close to him said the diagnosis had changed his perspective in profound ways. He used to live by his work, Diane explained. Now, he's learning to just live. The once tireless veterinarian started spending more time at home, tending to his garden, watching the sunset with Diane, and playing with his grandchildren. But even in rest, his mind was always with the animals. He often called the clinic just to check on a case, or to make sure one of his beloved farm dogs had been fed properly. The production crew of the incredible Dr. Pole also made a difficult decision. They would film a final special to honor his life, career, and the impact he had made around the world. Titled A Lifetime of Healing, the special would include never-before-seen footage of Dr. Pole's earliest days as a young vet in the Netherlands, as well as behind-the-scenes moments showing his humor, frustration, and unstoppable will. During interviews, Charles revealed that his father had initially been reluctant to make the special, saying, "I don't need a tribute, I just did my job." But after some convincing, he agreed, on one condition. "If it's going to be done," Dr. Pole told them, "make it about the animals, not about me. That humility was exactly what made him so beloved. When filming began, fans from across the country sent in personal stories, some emotional, some humorous, all reflecting how Dr. Pol had inspired them to care for animals in their own communities. Many said they became veterinarians because of him. During one scene, Dr. Pol revisited a dairy farm he'd served for over 40 years. The farmer, now elderly himself, hugged him tightly and said, "You saved more of my cows than I can count, Doc. You've earned your rest." Dr. Pol smiled softly and replied, "I didn't do it alone. We all did it together." It was moments like that which reminded everyone why he mattered so deeply. He wasn't just a veterinarian. He was a teacher, a mentor, and a living example of resilience. Even as his health continued to fluctuate, Dr. Pol faced it with grace and humor. "I might be slower," he joked, "but I can still outtalk any cow." And true to his word, he continued to share his wisdom with anyone willing to listen. As filming for the farewell special continued, emotions ran deep for everyone involved. Crew members who had followed Dr. Pol for over a decade found it difficult to keep their cameras steady during certain scenes. They weren't just documenting the end of a show. They were capturing the closing chapter of a man's extraordinary journey. Dr. Pol, now moving a little slower and speaking more softly, insisted on visiting every corner of his clinic one last time. He walked through the old barn where he treated his first patient in America, touching the worn wooden door as if greeting an old friend. "This place saw everything," he murmured, "the victories, the heartbreaks, the laughter. It's part of me." The camera followed him as he stepped into the treatment room, where countless lives had been saved. The walls were lined with photos of animals he had cared for: cows, dogs, cats, horses, and even the occasional exotic pet. Each picture told a story of dedication, compassion, and the endless bond between man and creature. Diane stood quietly nearby, her eyes glistening. She had watched her husband pour everything into his work, often sacrificing sleep, holidays, and personal time. Yet she also knew that no matter how much he gave, the animals always gave more in return. "He's happiest when he's helping something breathe again," she said softly. Charles, too, struggled to hold back his tears during interviews. "It's strange," he said, "because he's always been this unstoppable force. Seeing him finally slow down, it makes you realize how much he's carried all these years." Fans would later describe this part of the special as the most emotional moment ever aired on the show. As the crew wrapped filming for the day, Dr. Pol insisted on visiting one final patient, a horse suffering from a respiratory infection. Though advised not to overexert himself, he couldn't resist. "Just one more," he said with a grin. The team watched as he approached the animal gently, whispering soothing words in Dutch. The horse seemed to calm instantly, leaning its head against his shoulder. It was a simple moment, yet it perfectly captured who Dr. Pol truly was: calm, kind, and deeply connected to every living being. After the treatment, he walked back toward the clinic, turning to the camera one last time. "If I've learned anything," he said, "it's that life always finds a way to keep going. You just have to care enough to help it along." When the episode aired, millions tuned in across the world. Social media was flooded with tears, gratitude, and memories. Fans shared how Dr. Pol had taught them empathy, perseverance, and the value of hard work. Some veterinarians even filmed reaction videos, calling him a pioneer who brought rural veterinary medicine into mainstream respect. His humility and humor had broken stereotypes and shown the beauty of working with animals in its rawest form. After the broadcast, the Pol Veterinary Services phone lines were overwhelmed with calls, not from clients, but from well-wishers simply saying, "Thank you." Letters poured in, some from people who had never owned a pet, but said they felt closer to animals because of him. Diane later revealed that Dr. Pol spent hours reading each one, smiling at the kind words. "He couldn't believe people cared this much," she said. But they did, because Dr. Pol wasn't just a television figure. He represented something real. In a world often focused on fame and drama, he reminded everyone of the power of compassion, honesty, and purpose. And though his diagnosis might have changed his body, it couldn't touch his heart. As the final shot faded to black, his voice could be heard saying, "Take care of each other and your animals. They depend on us more than we realize." In the weeks following the emotional broadcast, the world continued to send love Dr. Pohl's way. The outpouring of support reached levels the family had never imagined. Letters from every state, videos from veterinary students dedicating their studies to him, and even fellow veterinarians who credited him for sparking a new respect for rural animal medicine. The incredible Dr. Pohl Clinic received so many gifts and cards that the team had to dedicate an entire room just to hold them. But while the public celebrated his life's work, those close to him witnessed a more private and profound transformation. For the first time in decades, Dr. Pohl began slowing down, not out of defeat, but acceptance. He told Diane one morning over coffee, "I've healed animals my whole life, but now I think it's time to heal myself." Those words marked a quiet turning point. The man who once woke up before dawn to make farm calls now spent his mornings watching the sunrise, often with a cat curled up beside him. Yet, his mind never strayed far from his mission. He continued mentoring young vets, offering advice through virtual calls and online seminars. His legacy began to evolve beyond the barn. It became a movement of compassion, knowledge, and perseverance. Universities reached out to feature his story in veterinary courses, and former interns spoke of him as the gold standard of care. Despite his illness, he never wanted sympathy. "Don't feel sorry for me," he told a friend. "Be happy that I got to live my dream every day." In the months that followed, his condition fluctuated. Some days he felt strong enough to visit the clinic. Others, he rested at home surrounded by family. The staff adjusted beautifully, carrying forward the same passion and dedication he had instilled in them. Even in his absence, the spirit of Dr. Pohl echoed through every hallway, every laugh, every emergency call, every life saved. The community, too, continued to honor him. A local park unveiled a bronze statue of Dr. Pohl kneeling beside a calf, capturing the tenderness and grit that defined him. During the ceremony, Charles gave a heartfelt speech. "My father didn't just save animals," he said. "He saved people. He gave them hope when they thought all was lost. And even as he says goodbye, that hope lives on." Dr. Pohl, seated beside Diane, wiped away a tear as the crowd erupted in applause. He wasn't a man used to praise, but that day he accepted it with quiet grace. Afterward, he told reporters, "All I ever wanted was to help. That's it. And if I did that, even a little, then I've done my job." As winter settled over Michigan, the clinic prepared to carry on without its founder at the helm. But Dr. Pohl's influence remained stronger than ever. Diane took over some of the administrative duties, while Charles and the younger vets ensured that the show's spirit continued. They even announced a special foundation, the Dr. Pohl Animal Care Fund, designed to provide financial assistance to struggling pet owners and young veterinarians starting their careers. It was the perfect tribute to a man who had spent his life giving without hesitation. In one of his final public messages, Dr. Pohl looked into the camera with the same warmth that had captivated millions for years. "If there's one thing I want people to remember," he said, "it's that kindness works. It doesn't matter if it's for an animal, a person, or the world itself. Be kind, always." That clip went viral, shared by fans around the globe as a farewell to a living legend. Though his diagnosis had been heartbreaking, his message remained full of life and gratitude. And as the sun set over the snow-covered Michigan fields outside his farmhouse, the man who once raced across them to save lives now watched peacefully from his porch, content, loved, and forever remembered as the doctor who never gave up.